Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just DCTV and our favorite storyline, sort of. But I'm not joined. I'm not joined. I think that makes sense, but I'm not alone today. I'm joined by another in the form of DJ Eric, aka Eric's Reloaded. So say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Well, you listen to the command, I guess. So, yeah, Eric joined us a couple of weeks ago or something. He has a channel on YouTube. We do a podcast over there every Saturday evening. I think it is Saturday something American time. On Saturday American time.
Around
Sunday,
dinner
Australia.
time. Around dinner time, supper time.
Yeah, so around that time. So you can go over to Eric's channel. Does similar content, DCTV, Arrowverse, other stuff as well. Dabbles in Marvel, all that stuff. So yeah, links in the description. But as you can tell from the title, yeah, discussions. So one of the big dramas over the past season of DCTV on the CW, and when you think about it, there was quite a good amount of drama, cancellations, disconnections, and just abruptly ended storylines with no outcome, or at least pleasurable outcome for fans. It was a crazy year. I'm sure you can agree with that, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a roller coaster. So just so much going on, good and bad.
But anyway, one of the things relating to outcome for fans and whether it was received well or not was, of course, the Diggle stuff in, I think it was episode 18 of season 8, where we saw the Diggle, I guess, Green Lantern storyline, or saga, as you will see David Ramsey refer to it soon, come to an end with him throwing the box away that we met in the Arrow series finale after going on this journey for quite a while in order to open it and seek some answers. Now, I don't think anyone was overly pleased with the outcome. You could understand why they did it on the show and just the world, which I felt, I fell in that camp. But that doesn't mean you had to like it, which I didn't either. Like, I was like, okay, I understand why they did it, but also it was a bit crap at the same time. But soon after, we heard both Eric Wallace and David Ramsey say that the story was ended due to the lack of clarity of the Flash and its future, and just Earth Prime and this version of Diggle's future as well. And if they weren't going to have the time to explore it more, what's the point of continuing it? So what were your thoughts on this Green Lantern quote-unquote saga? Like, did you expect anything to come from it when it was set up in the Arrow series finale, and then during those series of guest appearances in the season before last season? And also, what was your reaction when he threw the box away recently in season 8, just went yeet later?
Okay, so when we first got the tease of John Diggle becoming a Green Lantern, I thought maybe we would see a continuation of that in something Arrow related, like maybe the Green Arrow and the Canaries, or a crossover event, like another big like crisis event. Because I didn't think we would get like a Diggle centric series based on him being the Green Lantern. I never thought that was going to happen. I know a lot of people wanted it to happen. I never thought that was even in the cards. Following that storyline, though, if you're someone that hadn't been following it, I mean, like, he jumped around. I mean, he's crossed over on like every show. So we've seen like a tiny like breadcrumbs of this story sprinkled out over like every show after that appearance. So it's kind of difficult to follow. But as far as him like giving it up and throwing away this opportunity, on the Flash, I thought that was the end of it. Like, I was very comfortable with going, okay, he decided not to take whatever the call was or whatever this thing is. He decided to move on from it, and he's just going to live his life and deal with Argus and his wife and his family. And I was good with that.
Yeah, well, those interviews, like shortly after that season 8 episode of The Flash aired, was all we really heard about it. It was like radio silence up until last weekend at the very well-known Dragon Con, and it was a bit of an eventful one as well. Now, it was at Dragon Con over the weekend where David Ramsey seemed to open not one, but just multiple cans of worms. I mean, he gave away a casting for Superman and Lois, which we didn't know about if he was allowed to do or not, because he did it on an Arrow panel as well, and it hasn't been released yet by Warner Brothers or CW in a press release, so that's a confusing one. But he also talked about a good amount of stuff, another of which we'll talk about in another video. So sorry, Eric, you're not involved with that one. But the Green Lantern story came up again, where he explained again how the end of that story came about in The Flash season 8, while also, strangely enough, teasing that Diggle and rings connected to the color green on our TV screens on the CW might not be over. When I saw that headline, I started to get a headache. But here's what David said. It's not resolved. Eric Wallace called me, showrunner of The Flash, and he had a pitch for me to end the saga, the Green Lantern saga within the Arrowverse. And the reason why he did is because the Arrowverse was ending, right? It's going to end with Flash and all the other shows would go. And we knew, not at the time, I knew, but you didn't know yet, that Todd Helbing was going to reveal in Superman and Lois that the Superman and Lois verse, if you will, it exists on another planet, on a different Earth, and these characters are still alive. And the idea is perhaps there's a world where we can explore the Flash, or maybe just Barry Allen. Maybe he is Flash, maybe he isn't. Is Oliver Queen alive? Maybe he is. Maybe the ring is still there. Now, yeah, we will come back to that first bit, but David did go on to say this as well. He didn't stop there. I want to be Green Lantern with a really good budget because the stories are going to be great because Greg is going to make sure they are. Now, there is a Green Lantern story coming to HBO Max, just so you know. And I think, don't quote me on this, it is, but I think that's exploring Guy Gardner and Jessica Cruz and some others. The big properties of Hal Jordan and John Stewart are still kind of preserved. So yeah, so if we had an HBO Max budget or even a bigger budget, Superman and Lois has a beautiful budget. You can see it in the show in the production value. So if we had something like that. Now, my overall thoughts on what David has said here. Now, I do question whether he is teasing it for the sake of teasing it, because whenever there's these conventions that come around, I'm always like, are you just saying what the audience wants to hear? So you get an applause, a cheer, instead of a ooh, a boo, or I don't like that. That's always a big question when it comes to these conventions. It's not like he's saying it in an interview to TV Line or something like that. Or the other option is that maybe he's heard it's a possibility. David does seem, at least from the outside looking in, he does seem to be in that like that inner circle of sorts with at least Superman and Lois and I guess what they're doing at the CW. Like he knew that the Flash was ending at season 9 before it was publicly announced, even though most people assumed it would be the final season. So it's hard to really grasp if David is, chucking some truth out here or it's sprinkling of hope and optimism. It's hard to tell. But what do you generally think of what David is saying, in that first bit in regards to how they're going to deal with like the Superman and Lois verse and potentially there being a ring there for Diggle to grab and play with?
I mean, it feels like David Ramsey has like his hands in everything. I mean, he knows about this show, about that show. He's just got so much information, and it's true though.
Fingers
right?
in a lot of pies. Fingers in a lot of pies.
I mean, I feel like the last time he broke that news, like the fact that some of it was right only added more legitimacy to everything that he says. So now a lot of people assume if David Ramsey says something, it's probably going to be true. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because that's what's gotten so many things in trouble over the years, is we have these people saying things like hyping things, these projects up, and then these things don't happen. And it looks bad for those different, properties, whatever they may be. So I don't know if he's just doing it to hype up the crowd or if there's some genuine stuff going on in the background. I would love to see, a John Stewart Green Lantern show or movie or something like that. Is David Ramsey really the person that they would be eyeing for that? Or would they want to go with something completely different and brand new? Because he can't do the Justice U show that he's kind of teased for the quote unquote Superverse, but then also be a Green Lantern on another series. That doesn't seem like it's a possibility, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah. It's also like, this is me personally, but I don't think Superman and Lois is an overly fan servicey show. Like it'll have it's like, oh, this is from the comic books, but it's not like each week it goes for those fan servicey things, unless it's like, like what we saw in the pilot with the classic suit and some lines here and there. But I think it focuses on like mainly like just being a good show rather than being like, oh, we'll take away a potential bit of quality here so we can insert this fan service moment, which you see with a lot of things across DC and Marvel as well.
Yeah, very true.
So I just don't know if like they would, if David would be that, because that would be a fan servicey thing. But then it's one of those things, it's like, would any sort of optimism around it and belief that it's going to lead anywhere just be diminished because of how much it was teased on the Earth Prime side of things with all those shows, where it was abruptly ended in a way that people did not like? Right. So it's like a risky thing. It's like, being betrayed by your favorite pizza shop. Like, if you got a lot of faith going back there, it's like, you gonna give me that pizza that I liked, or have you still got the change of recipe?
I said extra cheese.
Yeah, and it was vegan cheese. That's not good type of cheese. So it's always like that. There's going to be some self-doubt with a lot of people going into it if that's the way they want to go about it. Now, I have seen people say, well, Superman and Lois won't do it because they won't be able to use Green Lantern. And I was like, okay, well, fair enough if John Diggle's name was, as David does say, like his name was John Stewart, or his name was Guy Gardner, like just using like the human version. They can't actually make him a Green Lantern or something like that.
Mhm.
But Stargirl got to use a Green Lantern. Like they got to use the ring, the lantern, the powers, everything like
Maybe it's
that.
just like a maybe it has to be a specific Green Lantern they can use. That's the only thing I can
Well,
think
yeah,
of.
because that's the thing. It wasn't Alan Scott. Like, Alan Scott exists on Stargirl's Earth, or did exist, but it wasn't. It was Jenny Lynn Hayden, a character that's not going to be on that HBO Max show, and they probably have no intention at the moment, at least, to use on that HBO Max series or anything
Right.
like that. So
Right.
Diggle is an original character of the Arrowverse, and I guess now the Superman and Lois verse, whatever it's going to be
Mhm.
called. So they could still let him be Green Lantern if they wanted to. It's just about whether it fits. And I think it fit way more, 10 times more, probably like 100 times more on Earth Prime with all those other heroes. And you actually saw that Diggle's journey from Arrow season 1 all the way to Arrow season 8 and then continued beyond that. So Diggle had a 10-year journey that was then abruptly ended. I think that's why it was an issue at the time, but also why there might be just some hesitation with them even trying to pick it up on Superman and Lois as well.
So
Like,
would
do
you
you
say that it would be super fan servicey if they just pretended that Diggle from the Superman and Lois verse had pretty much the same life and then just gave us a continuation of that story? Would that be too fan servicey? Would that be assuming too much? Because if we go into the idea that Diggle also has a ring and also had those options, can we assume that the rest of his life was pretty much identical? Because how could it be? If that Earth didn't have the same heroes that our Diggle knew, then how could he have lived those same experiences? It would be it's almost a little weird that we have a Diggle now that we don't really know anything about. It's the same actor, but it's not the same character.
Yeah, it'd be like a bit of fan service, but it's also lazy, which goes back to that other point I was saying, where if you sort of bring in some fan service stuff, you sometimes take away from the quality of something. And
Right.
I think that would be the case with this. It just, yeah, as they come across as lazy. But yeah, so of course we have Diggle showing up in this season of Superman and Lois. He obviously was in the cliffhanger slash setup for Bruno Mannheim and that whole John Henry Irons thing at the end of season 2. And we weren't 100% sure if he was going to be in season 3 at that point. We could assume so, but it was confirmed later on that he was going to appear in at least one episode, but I would assume he's going to be in a handful of episodes if he's attached to that storyline. But if there is no teasing or any sort of hint at all that Diggle has followed what we saw on Earth Prime, or this Diggle has followed what we saw on Earth Prime with a ring and that whole moment, if there's no hint of that, should we just cross this through and just stop even thinking about it and talking about it? Even if David Ramsey sometimes talks about in interviews, because unfortunately, I think that's what Diggle's turned into as well, is just
Hmm.
the potential Green Lantern rather than being what we saw in Arrow for pretty much 8 full seasons. It was really
Yeah.
right at the end of the series finale where that was set up. So if there's no linkage, no sort of hinting, are you just over it and just want to put an X and cross through it? Or would you still keep a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of optimism that maybe there could be something with this storyline in the future?
I mean, it's kind of like they want us to have that optimism. It's one of those like almost FOMO things where they're like, "Oh, well, if you don't hold out for it, you've invested so much time in it. If it happens
You
and
know what
you're
it's
not
like?
totally into it, you know what I mean?"
It's like the Flash and Supergirl stuff. Are they going to
Yeah,
appear on Superman and Lois?
right. It's the ultimate will they won't they with a person and a ring. That's pretty much what it is. And they've got me hooked. I'll say this, like I would not mind seeing John as the Green Lantern. I think it would be fine. I think that's okay. But they're also teasing Justice U, and they've got this Argus storyline with Bruno Mannheim. Do I want that to sort of crossover with a Green Lantern storyline? I mean, I don't know. I would like for them to either do it or don't do it. Like give us that storyline, make it work, make it make sense, or just forget about it altogether. The constant teasing of it seems almost cruel at this point. And I just wish they would, because you know how many people have been waiting for that. And then to see him throw the box away on Earth Prime, and then to have David Ramsey go, "Oh, but there's still a possibility because we have a Diggle, on Superman and Lois." It's just kind of cool to the fans. I don't think it's very healthy to keep doing that as well. So I just, if we're gonna do it, just do it. At this point, that's all I want.
Yeah, like pull the band-aid either way. Like pull it and just say that he's got the ring, or pull it and say like, "Oh no, I don't know what this dude's talking about." Like, no, I've done no alien or extraterrestrial interaction or sort of connections there. I I think teasing it is bad, and I think there's examples of it with the Earth Prime Diggle stuff, but also even as I sort of butted in before, like the Flash and just general crossover stuff.
Mm.
Like they just sort of ignored and said, hey, maybe it could happen. We're just trying to get our footing. And then it's like, oh no, we were always on a separate Earth and we've been playing that for a year. It was frustrating for fans, and I think this would fall on the same line.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all to talk about. Who knows? Maybe David Ramsey got another convention to talk about it again in a month's time.
I
we'll
hope
be back
not.
talking
Please
about
no.
it.
Please.
Maybe he'll show up with a ring. Maybe he might cosplay, and we'll be like, "Is that suit reveal?" Hashtag suit reveal. I don't know. At this point, I wouldn't.
They should put a lock and key on his PR stuff, because he's really putting the network in a weird position. So,
or some like Winter Soldier stuff where you mentioned ring or lantern or something, and like it's like blocked out. You can't say those words. But anyway, thanks for joining me, Eric. It's been good to have a chat about this stuff, even though potential headache. I don't know. I don't know if you need a paracetamol or something like that. I'm not too
sure. A good headache. Where's the Tylenol?
Yeah. What's it called? Aspirin, all that stuff, just to sleep. Cold towel. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, guys, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Obviously, go to Eric's channel, link in the description down below. As I said, you can go check out his content. Also, we do a podcast on there every weekend. Let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. Do you think there's any sort of optimism around it? Are you over it? Let me know. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.